Hi everyone. Hi to all those who have joined us. We'll just wait for a couple of more minutes so that others can join in the meantime. Exactly in 2 minutes, we'll go ahead and start with the session. Hi Arshdeep. Hi Chagan. Hi Ritika. Hi Sonia. Thanks to all those who have joined us. We'll just wait for a couple more minutes and then soon we'll have our insights shared. Hi Sijil. Hi Arshdeep. Hi Didier. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be soon starting ahead with the session. Hi Ragesh. Thanks for joining us. We'll soon start the session in a minute. Yeah, hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all those who have joined us from across the world. Today's session is all about CCaaS Outlook 2026, reviewing 2025 and the predictions for the year ahead. In today's session, we take a focused look on how CCaaS landscape evolved over the 2025 and what leaders must prepare for as we step into 2026. Along with me today, we have our CCaaS experts, Amandeep and Saurabh, who will walk you through the major shift that happened in 2025, the directions for CCaaS in 2026, the impact of AI, buyers and decision drivers for 2026, and of course, the predictions for 2026. Once again, I thank you all for joining us. And if you have any questions, feel free to raise your questions in the Q&A sections below. And let's dive straight into the session then. Over to you, Amandeep.
Okay, I hope I'm clearly audible. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. So yes, we are heading into the end of 2025, and what a year it has been. A year filled with change, breakthroughs, travel, a lot of AI, and then conversations that genuinely shifted perspectives. So over the last 12 months, me and Saurabh had the opportunity to engage with a wide spectrum of enterprises, BPOs, and technology vendors. And if there is one consistent theme that emerged from all those conversations, is this: that 2025 year was the year when organizations realized that the real change in CCaaS have very little to do things with AI features that have been marketed to them, and almost everything to do with the underlying architecture, data discipline, operational maturity needed to make those features actually work, right? We kept meeting teams who were really excited about automation, orchestration, new agent assist features. But once they moved from pilot environments, they discovered that the real bottleneck wasn't the capability itself. It was actually how fragmented systems, inconsistent data flows, and rigid workflows limited what was actually possible. And I think that gap between the platform's promise and what enterprises can truly execute has never been more visible than it was in 2025.
Well, absolutely, Amandeep. And hello, everyone. My name is Saurabh. So what we understand that actually what stood out to me was how buyer behavior has changed. For years, enterprises evaluated CCaaS vendors based on channel breadth, routing sophistication, or let's say attractiveness of the product roadmap. But the last year is a totally different year. It's a drift year, we will say. The buyers started asking a different set of questions. For example, how reliable can this platform integrate with my system of records? How traceable are AI actions in a regulated environment? How quickly can I change a workflow when my business logic evolves? And how much actual work can system execute with human intervention? So these kind of questions are trickier, but what they do, it reflects a very real shift from focusing on surface level innovation to focusing on execution quality and architecture readiness.
And that brings us to the core purpose of today's session. We want to give you a structured and a deeply informed understanding of how the CCaaS ecosystem has evolved over the last year, why certain organizations actually manage to scale AI-driven execution and why others stalled, and what this actually means for your strategy moving forward. To anchor this discussion, there are three specific key takeaways we want you to walk away with when you go home. So first, we wanted to give a clear understanding of the structural shift that actually reshaped CCaaS in 2025. Shifts in buying behavior, platform expectations, and operational maturity that now define how platforms are being evaluated. Second, a very grounded view of the architectural redesign happening across the industry and why orchestration is emerging as the central mechanism that enables consistent, scalable, and governed AI-driven execution. And last but not the least, the third takeaway, a forward-looking perspective on 2026 trajectory, the capabilities, operating models, and strategic choices that will define leaders and laggards in the next cycle. So these three outcomes will frame our entire conversation today. So with that, let's start by examining how 2025 unfolded and the forces that materially influence the directions of CCaaS market.
Anish, can we go to the agenda slide? Yeah. So to give you a clear sense of today's flow, we'll start with a quick review of how the CCaaS landscape changed in 2025. Then we start exploring what's real driving platform and buyer behavior in 2026. We'll try to break down the architectural shift, look at where vendors are repositioning, and share what's actually shaping enterprise decisions right now. And if you stick, of course, you're going to stick, right? Until the end, we promise to make the predictions worth your time. Let's just say it might be the most useful holiday gift you get this year from analyst.
Yeah. So, Anish, if you can move to the next slide. Yeah. So, when we look back at 2025, what stand out is that the market didn't shift because of a single technology breakthrough or a sudden change in customer behavior. It actually shifted because four underlying forces converged at the same time, and together they reshaped how enterprises think about CCaaS as an operational platform. And these are not short-term trends or marketing hype that are being created. They are really structural moments that have permanently changed the expectations placed on CCaaS vendors. The first major shift was expansion of platform scope. CCaaS vendors are traditionally viewed as a system for managing interactions, primarily voice, chat, and routing. No, it used to have its focus on customer service excellence. And as from if you see from 2023, AI has taken place, the add-on features had kept it growing and it made towards its focus towards CX, which was enabled through AI. Now it uses to focus, the entire system was such created that it focused on customer loyalty and slowly it moved towards backslash. But throughout 2025, enterprises increasingly treated CCaaS as an operational core for customer engagement, expecting it to unify digital channels, workforce management, conversational AI, workflow automation, and even reporting, all at one place. A lot of organizations told us that they can no longer justify running 5 or 6 adjacent systems when the expectation is to drive automation, reduce operational friction, and maintain consistency across the channels. So this actually expanded the scope that changed that we look at CCaaS platforms right now.
You know what, Amandeep? I really like the operational core for customer engagement word. And this shift is somewhere aligned with it. So when we talk about the second shift, that's evolution of AI and from simply assisting agents to actually performing work. Remember in 2024, most AI discussions, we talk to the end users, right, are focused on agent assist, summarization, and suggested responses. Drastically, in 2025, the buyers began evaluating platforms based on the ability to complete tasks, creating cases, updating records, applying refunds, validating identity, and orchestrating multi-step workflows, and etc., etc. Too much. This was the turning point because AI was no longer judged on how well it communicates, but it seems like how reliable it will be. And that distinction completely changed the evaluation criteria. We also saw this from many earning calls from vendors on how they're executing AI and capitalizing, which shows there's definitely a need, which is fooling, and the results were shown by the numbers.
Exactly. Thank you, Saurabh, for that. But if you come down to our third shift, in many ways, and that is the most one telling one is what the architecture overtook feature in importance. So enterprises realize that no matter how impressive the AI capability appears in demo, the flashy demos, it collapses if the underlying architecture cannot support the necessary data flow, latency, requirements, error handling, or even governance. This has pushed buyers to ask deeper questions. How does the platform access data? How predictable are systems to system interactions? How are policies enforced? Where do we control the model behavior? And all this has marked the year that buyers have evaluated CCaaS the old way. And there is the new system that is evolving, and this is the way buyers will look at the CCaaS players right now. And finally, organizations began pushing harder for consolidation, not for cost reasons alone, right? But because fragmented ecosystems were directly limiting the ability to scale automation. Every disconnected tool introduces variability in data, workflow logic, identity, and even compliance. So when enterprises attempted end-to-end automation, the friction wasn't in AI capability. It was actually in the seams between the systems. So consolidation moved from being an efficiency goal to being an automation prerequisite. This is why many enterprises rethought their architecture entirely in 2025. Together, these four structural shifts created the foundation for how the industries will evolve in 2026. They not only changed the expectation placed on platforms, but also redefined what good looks like in modern customer operation environment. With that context, let's explore where CCaaS is actually heading in 2026, because the direction is far more strategic and architecture than most people realize.
Anish, can we go to the next slide? So when we look ahead to 2026, and apologies if you want to hear these years again and again, but of course, right? So the direction of CCaaS become much clearer in over the years. We are moving away from platforms that simply coordinate interactions and towards platform that now coordinates outcomes. So three themes are drifting this shift. First, CCaaS is becoming a true system of executives. That's very important to know. It's not just an engagement layer. Enterprises want platform that can trigger workflows, validate policies, and update systems, which will be the closed loop without human involvement. Second, the industry is moving towards hybrid interactive models, and we have heard hybrid a lot in these years. So here will be AI and humans continuously hands-off tasks based on context, risk, and complexity. This requires an entirely different architectural backbones. Third, governance observability, and we really want to focus on that because today is totally a non-negotiable stuff. The more AI is allowed to act to inside enterprise system, then you need to have stronger guardrails and accountability mechanisms. These three shifts define the real direction of CCaaS in 2026, and they underpin every architectural and operational change we are seeing. Next slide, Anish. So here we're gonna summarize how organizations actually optimize for upcoming years. So once everybody realized that execution, not features, was the real differentiator, the complete picture has been changed. So the first change we noticed that how they measure success. So let's say instead of looking at containment or self-service rates, many leaders started tracking metrics like percentage of customer intents and percentage of workflows initiated by AI. So those numbers began to appear in your board decks because they show how much real work the platform is doing, not just how many interactions it touches. The second change, the procurement behavior, which we have a lot of query found from our end users. So the automation here moved from being a nice to add on to a formal evaluation criteria. So platforms were compared on the ability to trigger real systems, updates, and orchestrate multi-step tasks and handle failures gracefully. So that's where we see the shift from CCaaS as interaction management to CCaaS as an execution platform. So that's why the third is very important shift, that's workforce redesign. In many organizations, agents started to act more like AI supervisors. And why we calling AI supervisors, not agents? The reason being that validating edges cases and correcting system behavior, supervisors took the ownership of workflows. And operation team began to think of themselves as orchestration architects rather than just queue managers. This is still early, but the platform is still clear to be on. And finally, automation patterns diverge by segments. We noticed that this pattern a lot in mid-market organizations. With simple architecture, move faster and automated, a higher share of intents. When we say about large enterprises, move from cautiously because of governance and legacy complexity, but focused on fewer, higher impact journeys. So that divergence we have noticed is a strong signal of how 2026 adoption will unfold. And if you connect all these dots and all these elements, one thing will be clear, the strategic anchor. So the big shift in 2025 was CCaaS moving from managing interaction to executing work. So that's the lens, that's the QCAS lens through which the rest of 2026 needs to be interpreted.
Exactly. That was some great. So thank you, Saurabh, for giving highlights on these points. My favorite term was the workforce redesign. I just love how actually the impact of agents is moving towards only agent-driven tasks to becoming AI supervisors. So to summarize what we just saw till now is that 2025 was a base year, was a foundation layer where we started to execute, experiment, and move beyond the experimentation of the AI phase, right? And we set the base, we make market awareness, but now 2026 will be the year of rapid scalability. We'll see everything that we'll see will be in terms of executions, outcomes, and everything. That's why having an execution capability is much more needed. Before we move forward towards another, there's a poll question that we wanted to run. As of today, what of these areas has shown the most tangible progress in your CCaaS environment? Just let us know if you can see the poll.
Fastest finger first.
Okay, I could see people are answering. So I could see that agent assist and response generation is one of the key areas where people actually focused.
More votes are coming, Amandeep.
That's changing quickly.
We have 14 attendees. Come on, it's only 6.
We could wait, but I think that's one is the still leading. So agent assist and response generation is still leading the race. Okay. So if I can move forward and let's discuss the market forces that are actually shaping CCaaS in 2026. So when we look at 2026, what's shaping CCaaS isn't the surface trends. It's again 4 structural forces that are quietly redefining how platform must operate. First, CCaaS is becoming the execution layer.
Amandeep, I think slide is stuck. Anish, yes.
Can you please change the slide? Yeah, perfect. I think this is the one. So yeah, sorry guys for that. But the first thing was that CCaaS is becoming the execution layer. Enterprises no longer evaluate platforms on how they handle conversations, but actually on how they complete the entire work. That shift changes everything: design, data contracts, workflow logic, and even the vendor differentiation, right? So it is moved from managing interactions to a more executing interactions. The second is AI is actually entering into the operational layer. AI isn't something you experiment with anymore, right? Enterprises now want standardized automation patterns, monitoring of AI-led tasks, exception handling, human oversight, built directly into the platform. And this is where the most pilots broke in 2025. And the reason was not because the AI was bad. It was because the operational layer wasn't ready. And that's what we saw AI as, top of the layer or stitched on particular offerings. But now AI is going to enter the operational layer. The third, and I think it's the most important one, is data and integrations are becoming the hard limits. For every enterprises pushing automation, the constraint isn't intent recognition or entity extraction or even the model quality. It's actually data availability, latency, and integration reliability. You can't orchestrate if your data plumbing doesn't support it. So you need to manage your entire data stack in such a manner that your orchestration would really work. And for that, you have to focus on data and integration, and data becoming the hardest limits. The fourth one is consolidation is turning into actual architecture strategy. So organizations don't just want fewer vendors, they want a single surface where orchestration, WEM, AI, digital channels all align at one place. And actually, this consolidation is not to save money. It's consolidation for consistency and governance. So these four forces are the real reasons that the industry is recognizing around orchestration, data, and execution. Anish, you can change the slide.
All right. If you like, Amandeep have mentioned a lot about AI, and we really believe that AI readiness and adoption shift in CCaaS is very important. So we created a survey and collect some data. So we're going to compare the year 2024 and 2025. The most story in this chart is not the rise in AI assist. It's the shift from AI supported interactions to AI driving execution. So if you can see the workflow automation area, a 17-point jump in 1 year tells us organizations are not just experimenting anymore. They are pushing AI into places where it actually completes work. And if you can see the AI-driven orchestration, more than double, that's shocking, right? So that's a direct signal from routing logic alone cannot support mixed mode journeys. Enterprises are realizing that AI workflows break without an orchestration layer that will coordinate decisions, data calls, and handoffs. We also noticed a meaningful rise in system action automations, updating CRM, triggering billing changes, closing cases. That's the point where AI moves from conversations to operations. But the telling shift is governance and audit controls, jumping to 47% adoption. That shows that enterprises now understand the risk of letting AI act without full traceability. They're going to create the orchestration and governance level more inseparable, right? And then there's a constraint, data readiness. It's the slowest to mature, of course. We are now the more talking about AI, less talking about data. So we saw this maturity level of data readiness, and it's becoming the number one barrier to scaling beyond pilots. We're going to discuss it furthermore. So AI, and we also believe that AI cannot execute reliability if the data layer can't keep up. So if you put simply, 2024 was about AI helping agents respond. 2025 shifted AI executing structured work. Execution, orchestration, and governance are where the real adoption momentum is.
So thank you so much, Saurabh. And from all these data points that were taken, there was a common question from end users, and we also at QCaaS, we thought that how we can help organizations and enterprises choose the right vendor with the right AI strategy that they have and that completely aligns with them. So let's flip and understand. Yes, we came up with a matrix.
Apologies for, again, I think the slide is...
Anish, you can, yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Anish. So yes, we made a matrix. I know it's you might be thinking, and hey, analyst, that's what they do. They create matrix. But guys, let me run you through the thought process behind this, what we're trying to solve. So let's flip and understand what vendors are doing. As analysts, we made metrics and we call it as AI maturity matrix. But Over the last few years, we have seen AI move from experimentation to almost every boardroom conversations. Every vendor today talks about being AI powered or AI driven. But the real question we started asking at QKS was, are these advancements happening in right direction? Because using AI and maturing with AI are two very different things. Anyone can add AI as features, but very few have a clear vision and a roadmap that aligns AI to the business purpose. And that's where this AI maturity comes in. You might be thinking why this person is talking about maturity when we have just started to or plan to work in this direction, right? So let me walk you through the thinking behind this metrics and how organizations can use it to identify the right partners for the AI journey. I think that AI maturity is directional and it's not static, because maturity isn't a finish line or a one-time score. It's about the alignment between a vendor's vision, its prioritization, and measurable outcomes. In the race for AI, direction matters most, and so do speed. So combining that two will give you 2x records. Today, almost every vendor says we have AI. But the real question is, how coherently is AI integrated? Is it stitched as an add-on, or is it a part of the product design logic? True maturity comes from intentions, not how much AI you use, but how meaningful you use it to actually drive better outcomes. Right? The purpose of this metrics isn't to rank vendors whose AI is mature, but it's actually to help enterprises choose the right partner for their journey. So it will help you identify who aligns best with your AI vision and goals, how far they have progressed from first prototyping to scaled impact, and how their roadmap is evolving year on year in real world deployments. So this isn't a one-time report, but it's a living framework for us, because every year we'll expand these metrics to reflect market shift, enterprise adoptions, and emerging AI-led use cases. Because ultimately, AI maturity isn't about being first, it's more about being aligned.
So moving on, Amandeep, I have a interesting poll. If I can go right before you start doing your next slide.
Please go ahead.
Wait, okay, let me go. Yeah. All right. Come on, it's like 10 p.m. in India. We are lighting up. That's it. That's it. Someone voted for spicy predictions, Amandeep.
Thank you. That's what you wanted, actually.
Yep.
Okay.
Everybody's with us. Yes.
Okay. So then let's move in that direction.
Yeah.
So the next, I wanted to discuss about what architectural breakpoint is introduced by AI. After AI has come, what has changed in architecture? So this slide actually captures the single biggest architectural shift AI has triggered inside the contact center. For last 2 decades, contact center operated on a very linear model: channels, routings, agents. Everything assumed in one direction, one handoff, and one decision. And the only thing was which agent gets his interaction. The entire architecture, from data to routing to reporting, was built around that flow. You know, but AI actually break this model. Now the new reality is non-linear policy-governed execution. A customer journey can now start with AI, move to a human, return to AI, trigger a policy check, execute a system update, and then notify the customer, all inside a single workflow. Because legacy routing couldn't coordinate that, and it was actually never designed to. So 3 layers that fundamentally changed. Let's go by that. First, the interaction layer becomes a hybrid execution layer. The system now decides who executes the next step, not just who replies. AI and humans operate interchangeably inside the same execution path. They have to work augmenting in a way that can complement each other. Second, the routing layer is replaced by orchestration. Now it's the system decides who acts, who does control shift, which workflow runs, what constraints apply, which policy. It's no longer about skill-based matching, it's about multi-step logic across the entities. And third, obviously, we talked about that. The data layer moves from historical reporting to real-time decisioning. It gone are the days that we used to sit, analyze the report, and then take decision. Okay, let's improve this aspect of our contact center. Everything is changing, and things are moving at a faster pace. AI needs grounding and identity, context, and policy checks as interaction happens, and not after that. This is the architectural breakpoint. Once AI start acting and not just assisting, the brain of the contact center moves from routing to orchestration. If you can move towards the next slide, Anish, I would get it through the architecture. Yeah. So the 2026, the reference architecture for 2026 is that every CCaaS buyer and vendor will ultimately converge towards this. And it's not because it is a trend, but actually because AI forces this architecture. Let me break it down again. So if you see the channel layer, this is just the entry point. Voice, chat, messaging, these are just doorways and nothing more. In 2026, channels don't define capability, the execution stack actually does. And if you come towards the orchestration and policy, we call it the brain. This is the layer that fundamentally didn't existed in classic CCaaS, but it will be there. It controls hands-off, constraints, escalation logic, fallback flows, and compliance rules. This is the control plane that will decide again with what data and what will happen if someone fails. And this layer is what makes AI safe and more predictable. If you move towards the third layer, AI execution with human. Think of this as a work plane. AI handles structured tasks, system updates, and all the workflow steps. Human handles complex cases, empathy, judgment, and all the expectations. They're not on separate lanes. They execute within the same workflow based on the brains and decisions. And Saurabh again mentioned in the earlier slides about AI supervisor. And that's the emerging role that will give rise towards AI and human execution. And the fourth layer is about data and knowledge layer. This is the context plane. Whatever decisions you take, when you go and derive the context, it will be there. Identity, CRM records, order history, knowledge articles, everything AI and human needs to act correctly must be accessible in real time. So it's very simple. If data fails, automation fails. It's that simple. And if you see on the fifth one, which will be across all the layers, will be observability and governance. This layer will become non-negotiable when AI start executing tasks. Buyers want full action logs and not just summaries. They want step-by-step trace of every AI decisions, every retrieval, every rule triggered override. And this is what that gives enterprises confidence to scale with automation. Let me use a very simple real-world example. So a customer wants a refund for a cancelled flight book because I just saw a lot of reels of that flights are getting cancelled. Then he wants to rebook the next available option, apply a travel voucher, and update the contact details all in the same interaction. So if you see in the old CCaaS model, if you break this, you need one agent for refund, then you might need another agent for rebooking, then system access for voucher, and manual updates for CRM and the call. But in this architecture, the orchestration layer coordinates all of this. AI handles refund eligibility plus applies voucher. Human steps in only for rebooking complexity. AI comebacks to update CRM plus send confirmations, and governance logs everything. So this is a single journey that starts with AI, switches to human, returns to AI, and you cannot do this on routing. You need a brain, and that's what this is the architecture that we're going to look at.
Yeah. Can we go to the next slide, Anish? So in the previous slide, you noticed about the layering of architecture of CCaaS, right? But if you want to enable this architecture, you need to have a checklist. So if every enterprise is going to run in coming years, honestly, you need to have this checklist, because we have noticed that most failures we saw last year or previous year directly to these four areas: mixed AI plus human execution. The first implication is simple. AI and human must operate in one continuous workflow. If the platform forces hard boundaries, bot flow here, agent flow there, automation will be break down to moments, right? And the quality of automation now depends on how smooth the transition is, not how smart the model is. Orchestration logic is a king. And this is the biggest mindset change. Routing is not equal to orchestration wise. Routing makes one decision. Which agent? Orchestration makes dozens of decisions. Who acts next? Which workflow runs? What constraints apply? What data to use? And what to do if something fails? So in coming years, logic will become the new source of differentiation between platforms. And if you see, the integration defines feasibility. And this is a hard truth now. Automation doesn't fail because of AI. If it fails because of data crunching, if CRM, billing, all your data systems aren't reliable, accessible with predictable latency, automation coverage will not grow regardless of how good a model is. And this is why ops team, we have noticed that ops teams start demand ownership of automation logic rather than leaving it to engineering. Governance as an infrastructure, because governance is normally not so noticeable. And in the previous slides, we have told you about that. Today in today's area, it's totally non-negotiable. So when you talk about governance becomes infrastructure, not just a checkbox. So once AI starts performing actual tasks, enterprise must know what AI did, what data it relied on, and how it reverts if needed. So auditability and lineage aren't nice to have anymore. They are like core to risk management. So all these four implications which I explained right now are why CCaaS architecture is being redesigned from the inside out. So AI didn't just bring new capabilities, it changed the foundation rules of how the system needs to operate, right?
Yeah, great. Anish, if you could change the slide. Yeah. So this is very interesting areas what we have seen over the last 12 months. How buyer priorities and what are the buyer priorities that will be driving 2026 decisions. If you see how CCaaS used to get evaluated while getting onboarded has completely changed. And there are many impacts to this. What we discuss about so many changes that AI brought, architecture brought, data brought, and that's the reason. So the four things that we actually think are: first is system anchoring. Buyers now are prioritizing how naturally a platform fits into their enterprise architecture. So the platform that wins are the ones that actually align very cleanly with existing CRM, identity systems, schema structures, and data flows without forcing any redesign or workarounds. So the insight here is quite simple. A platform that anchors clearly into an enterprise stack outperforms a platform with more features and but more friction, right? So now if you see, there will be a team of office coming from AI, coming from information, coming from ERP and enterprise architect system, and then evaluating all these features before how it was earlier, like a contact center manager and the team of CX experience only used to evaluate these features. The things have been changing because of the enterprise architecture. Second is the execution quality, because a lot of people have already tried a lot of pilot projects, and now, as we discussed, AI has moved past execution, right? Now, if you able to prove execution, that's where you win. Task reliability has actually become the defining standard. So buyers are no longer impressed by AI demos. They judge platform by how consistently they execute multi-step action across the systems. This is not about actually very speed. It's about stability, how well you handle errors, and workflow durability. So platforms are being selected on execution resilience, not feature breadth. And one of the most important things that we think is control surfaces after a lot of our conversations with operations sides of this structure, because operation teams want direct control over automation logic. This is one of the biggest behavioral shift we have seen. Enterprises no longer want to depend upon vendor or engineering cycles to tune workflows or update guardrails. They want ownership, right? And the insight is very clear. Control has become a buying criteria. If ops can own the logic, the platform, if ops cannot actually own the logic, the platform cannot be scaled, right? And yes, a You'll hear this in every conversation, the governance envelope. Every buyer implementing AI at scale now treats governance as core infrastructure. Traceability, lineage, rollback path, policy boundaries are just no longer side considerations. They define whether automation is safe to deploy. And that's a major shift. Governance is now a platform requirement and not a compliance checkbox, as Saurabh did mention. So these four are the priorities that are actually, very important in 2026. So if a platform aligns with all four, it moves forward. If it misses with even four, it is actually bound to get out of consideration. And this is the new decision lens that we are deciding from QCAS lens. The next part is, let's flip our lens and see how vendors are repositioning themselves in this modern CCaaS era. So what's happening in CCaaS market right now is not a very incremental repositioning. It's a fundamental reset of how vendors present themselves, because things that differentiated platform in past are no longer defensible. So earlier there were so many, we have breadth of channel, bring any of the channel, omni-channel routing. It was so much of them. But currently CX execution platform. So there are four clear movements across almost every major vendor we track is CX execution platforms. Vendors have realized that positioning CCaaS as a contact handling tool has actually no future. They are reframing themselves as execution platforms where workflows, AI, WEM, and data come together to deliver real operational outcomes. This shift is driven purely by buyer pressure, by the way. And enterprise don't want another channel system. They want a platform that can actually run work and not just route it. The second is orchestration first. You'll see this coming from everywhere. We are launching an orchestration, and this is actually becoming the key central mechanism. Roadmaps are moving away from channel expansion to or routing improvements. The priority is now policy-driven orchestration, logic layers that can govern multi-step journey across AI agents, human agents, and backend systems. So they need to connect front end, mid office, and backend in a seamless way. Vendors know that without orchestration depth, automation breaks, and this is becoming the core competitive differentiation. The third is one of my favorite that I've seen: native AI systems. So currently, if you see, you'll see AI in a very broader concept. You will see vendors talking about we have AI at core, but still AI has three layers to play. AI will be at core, it will be as embedded, and it will be also on the top of the feature at some places. But if you need to highlight what is the vendor trying to do, is it trying to just stitch it on as an add-on feature, or it's actually a part of its product design logic? So I've seen vendors, they're actually embedding AI directly into the routing logic, system actions, knowledge driven, and agent workflows, and not as optional features, but as default behavior. And this is happening because standalone AI features, they do not scale. AI has to be a part of your platform's operational fabric to scale at last. And then you'll see a lot of acquisitions that are happening, and we are looking at stack consolidation. And finally, vendors are converging previously separate components, the WEM, digital, conversational AI, and workflows into unified platforms. And this isn't about marketing bundles or having different pricing, but it's a direct response to a tool sprawl, integration fatigue, and complexity that buyers face when the automation needs to run across 6 to 8 different disconnected systems. So if you have this disconnected systems, it is very difficult to run the automation at scale. So when you put these four shifts together, the pattern is very clear. The era of differentiating on channels, add-on, or isolated AI feature is over. Vendors are repushing themselves around orchestration, execution, unified architecture, because that is exactly where buyers' priorities have moved. So what will separate vendors in 2026? So what we have done that we have evaluated vendors that everything rolls up into three buckets, that is architecture, operations, and risk. And each capability inside these buckets has a very clear differentiation impact, critical or high. Let's break it down. So if you see architecture differentiators, critical plus high impact, there is orchestration set. This is now one of the strongest differentiator. If a vendor cannot support conditional multi-step workflows with unified policy, they cannot support real AI workflows. And this capability separates advanced execution platform from routing era platforms. And then there is integration. This is arguably the single most critical separator, because the more open your CCaaS platform would be, the better it would be to integrate with CRM, identity, billing, and order systems. And that with stable APIs and consistent schemas, automation breaks immediately. And even strong AI models collapse if there is weak integration foundations. So this is going to be very critical. And then consolidation readiness. As we have talked to buyers, and we know that having a disjointed system is a big challenge for them. So as buyers move to unified platforms, vendor who merge CCaaS, WEM, digital channels, plus AI into a coherent admin plane will gain a major advantage. If you see in operational differentiators, earlier they were not a very big part of the CCaaS ecosystem, but now they are. So embedded AI depth. AI cannot longer be a bolt-on. Platforms with native AI inside routing, workflows, and knowledge retrieval will pull ahead very fast. So this determines how much of the workload AI can actually handle natively. And there's one more thing that is emerging from the operations side is the AI lifecycle operations for CX specifically, because they will track how these operations are actually impacting, and this might also change how we calculate our new CX metrics in the coming time. This is still emerging. We have seen vendors trying to inquire about this and working around this space, but it is emerging. And the most critical is risk and governance differentiators. So governance envelope is one of the critical aspects, as we discussed. And automation stability, again, when that Saurabh put a head point, that it is again becoming a high impact differentiator, because automation cannot scale in disjointed systems and standalone AI. We need an entire structure to scale automation.
So Amandeep, if I pitch in, so the real separation in 2026 isn't channels or features, if you agree?
No, it's definitely not.
So it'd be like architectural depth or high impact operations.
Yes.
And of course, stronger governance. So I feel it just impromptu came to my mind that these layers gonna govern CCaaS leaders in coming years.
Yes, of course.
All right. So yeah, so moving on. Thank you, Anish, for the slide. So moving on from 2026, 4 consequences that reshape how CCaaS decisions are made. All right, first, orchestrations overtake AI models. Of course, I think in the most of the slides, me and Amandeep have talking orchestration AI a lot, right? And that's why the market realizes these things. The model is a commodity now. So what actually differentiates vendor is the logic layer. How well the platform governs multi-step conditional workflows, right? So I noticed that the market shift is about model don't win, orchestration does. Second, the integration quality becomes the ceiling for automation. Latency. Every architecture and identity alignment now decide whether automation can scale beyond pilots. That is, API is greater than UI. Third, ops team turns into automation designers, like of workflow designers. So the job moves from handling context to architecting workflows and managing exceptions. So this is going to redefine the DNA of operations. And the truth will be the agents will be transitioned to architects. If I agree, Amandeep, if you agree, sorry, right? And unified platform be best of breed. So enterprise is going to prioritize architectural simplicity, one governance layer, one policy plane, even if individual features are lighter. And of course, simplicity gonna win. So all these 4 shifts define how vendors will be evaluated in coming years: logic, integrations, operational designs, and platform coherence. Yeah. Can we go to the next slide, Anish? So this will be the implication for our key stakeholders and the people from enterprises, BPOs, and tech providers might have joined this webinar, and we assured that we have everything for everybody. So as we are in closing session, so the implication of 2026 fall clearly across 3 groups. Enterprises now need to treat CCaaS as enterprise architecture, not a communication tool. We have a lot of communication tool other than if you want to attach CCaaS as communication tool. So they must anchor the platform into CRM, identity, and data systems, and establish governance before scaling automation. KPI shifts from handling time to task success, automation coverage, and exception rate. Next, BPUs. So BPUs, if we have seen a transition in coming years from BPUs evolution. So from staffing engines to AI supervision engine that we're going to call BPUs in future years. So the value comes from designing workflows, supervising AI agents, and co-owning it. And exception models with enterprises. So SLAs move towards outcome-based, not seed-based. And when you talk about tech providers, they must embed AI deep into the system, routing, policy, traceability, not as an add-on, right? So the winner will be those who fix integration latency, unify CCaaS, WEM, digital AI into one admin experience, and deliver orchestration reliability over feature count.
Okay. So yeah, Anish, if you can move to the next. For those who stayed, thank you. And well, Christmas is early. So let's jump into the QCAS predictions, and I want to give some time for questions, but let's give this look. So the first prediction is that orchestration engine becomes the primary evaluation criteria. So in 2026, vendors won't be judged by their channels or AI models; they'll be judged by quality of the orchestration engine. Enterprises finally realize something very simple, that AI models don't fail at scale; orchestration logic does. And if I remember, a major bank told us that when he evaluated a CCaaS, multiple CCaaS platforms, every feature that was shown had looked same to him. And so he told us that show us that who can coordinate work without breaking. And that's the shift. Routing is utility and orchestration is differentiation.
Yeah, completely. Uh, when we talk about orchestration, of course, joint decision making will be within our prediction. CX, IT, enterprise architecture become co-owners. So this is the first year CCaaS become a joint purchase. IT and enterprise architecture now sit with CX because the automation layer touches CRM, billing, fraud, IM, events, and audit. And if I take example, recently I talked to a retail client. They told us that we like the CX features, but IT rejected the platform because the schema didn't line with the identity. Of course, the misalignment. So in 2026, the evaluation lens moves from experience feature to enterprise fit.
And the new success metric is task automation success rate will replace containment rate. So yeah, containment will be over, and 2026 moves towards task automation success rate as core essential, because buyers now know high containment with low completion is a liability and not a win. So containment gave a false sense of progress, but 2026 will actually work on fixing that. Enterprises now will measure automation by one question: can automation finish the task reliably under the real world messiness? That would be there.
Uh, Data alignment failures, the hidden bottleneck becomes visible. That will be our next prediction, because we're talking that data is not normally looked upon a lot, right? When we started talking about more about AI, and here's the uncomfortable truth for 2026: the automation failure will come from data misalignment, not AI. Trust me. The more workflows you automate, the more cracks in identity in CRM systems, even in architecture got exposed. And we saw many enterprises where 15% of failures happened because customer type had three inconsistent value across systems, right? And that's why in 2026, the data readiness will be the most important part of an RFP.
The fifth one is the rise of AI supervisor. Shift from agent to AI supervisor transition, and this is the biggest workforce shift since cloud contact centers has actually launched, because agents evolves into AI supervisors, monitoring automation quality, handling exceptions, and turning workflow logic. So a BPO we tracked has already moved 30% of its senior agents into automation oversight pods that actually has elevated their works as AI supervisors as well, along with the agent tasks. So enterprises will, actually look out for these advancement into the agent roles as well.
And my favorite, proactive engagement becomes outcome driven, not trigger driven. So today's proactive CX is still rule based, boarding messages, right? Payment bounced, send the message. Payment received, send the message. Payment not getting to right client, send the message. So 2026 moves to outcome-driven proactive. AI intervenes before the friction even happens. Uh, if I say, if I give example, let's say a telco pilot will tell you that will help you to orchestrate signals to predict churn rate 7 days early, right? So that will reduce your call by, let's say, some numbers. So this level of preemptive orchestration becomes a table stake.
And the last one that we're going to see is mid-market acceleration, because simpler architecture moves faster than enterprises. The irony of 26 is that the mid-market will take leapfrog and in enterprise automation rollout. Why? Because of cleaner architectures, fewer legacy system, and low integration depth. A mid-market fintech might automate end-to-end different workflows in just 5 months, but a global bank would still be in phase of getting approvals. So 2026 rewards simplicity. Yeah. So that's all from our side, guys. And thank you for joining. And we are open for any questions. You can just put up questions in Q&A and we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Amandeep. Thank you, Saurabh. I'm sure that all the audience that was present to us throughout the past 1 hour has got the insights on how to take better decisions for 2026, especially for vendors in the CCaaS space. So once again, thank you all for joining us. We have got a lot of questions, Aman and Saurabh, already. I doubt that whether we can ask all these questions in such a short time that we have left. But anyway, I've shortlisted a couple of questions for you guys. I'll start with, let's not waste further time, but I'll start with the questions. So we have one of the attendee asking us, every vendor claims to be AI first. What will truly differentiate CCaaS platform by 2026 beyond just adding more AI features to them? Mm-hmm. What do you guys think on that?
Yeah, they're asking AI thing, right? It's your area, you should take it.
Yeah, so that's the most the best question that I could ever expect, and I love to answer this question. So it's very simple now. Earlier there were a lot of logics. I used to talk about a lot of that AI deep down features, but AI isn't a feature, or AI doesn't has a feature race anymore. It's an architectural decision right now. Even if the vendor, everyone shows best AI features, you need to think from your own architecture decision. Because by 2026, the real differentiation will come from how intelligently a platform orchestrates AI and not how many AI features it has. And that will actually separate leaders from the pack. So if you want to go in that direction, I'll give you the 4 key points that I can think. See a unified AI layer and not scattered AI features. That's the first point, because that will help you under one, keep you under one AI orchestration layer, and that in this way you can win, because you don't want 17 different disjointed AI features. That you actually want one AI thing that can guide the entire operation. The second, I would say, is the ability to manage AI like an enterprise system, right? The leaders will solve governance, model explainability, risk policies, and lineage areas which most vendor ignore. If you see vendors solving this problem, just go for it. And third is, I think it's outcome level accountability, because you'll get a lot of things that would promise a lot of things, but very less vendors you'll see promising on outcome level accountability, because vendor that move from AI capabilities to move from that how AI guarantee outcomes are the ones that actually separate from the pack. So I think these are the 3 points that you should focus on.
Thanks for answering that, Aman. We still have a lot of questions flowing in. To all those who are attending us live, we will surely answer those questions, at least via replying to your mail. So keep flowing in those questions. Anyway, the next question, guys. How will the role of... I'll just take another question up. So how should enterprises think about building a connected CAS ecosystem across organizations so that customer journey aren't just stitched together, but actually orchestrated in real time? What do you think on that?
CX ecosystem, right?
Right.
Yeah. Anish, you just quote me right here. A connected journey isn't built by integrating systems. It's built by synchronizing decisions. Amandeep, you agree or not?
Yes, of course.
Moving to the question, enterprises need to move from integration to orchestration. We are covering this part a lot. We are orchestration again and again, right? But of course, this is the difference, right? And when we say connected data across all the data, for example, CRM, CCaaS, WM, CCM, so journey fails because systems talk after the customer interaction. So the future is real-time sharing intent, policy, and context. So all across the data stack. And when we say a single intelligence layer that guide the journey, that is the most important part of the CX journey. So instead of every system making the own decisions, I feel routing, marketing, service will be the key areas. You get the answer of who the customer is, the need, the right action, all these areas, right? And I don't want to miss the government part, because government and compliant AI is very important here, even in the CX. So the moment you touch banking, insurance, healthcare, every AI assisted message needs traceability. So this forces the need of central governance and shared policy, not channel level, but at the whole level. So to summarize my answer, so the shift is from state journeys to synchronized journeys, where AI, data, decision flows across all the system will be there. I hope I answered correctly, Ahmad. If you want to add something.
I think that's pretty there. I think the entire crux is about having a connected ecosystem that connects multiple systems for communications, whether it's flowing from CCM, whether it's flowing from market ecosystem, or whether it's flowing from journey. We need to have this unified ecosystem where we can actually make the right decision and give the right customer experience from there.
Thanks for answering that again, guys. I'll straight away jump to the next question. So the next question is that how will the role of agents change in 2026 with agentic workflows, co-pilots, and real-time orchestration coming into mainstream? And in today's presentation, we covered a lot on orchestration.
Yeah. So I think I'll take that. So 2026 will be the year that agent stops being the system operator and becomes the decision operator more, I think, because there will be a lot of theories that AI would replace agents. So AI is also going at tier 1, tier 2 levels of answering questions. So I don't think that AI won't, it will actually replace agents. It replaces the task that actually block agents from doing the real work. So being an agent, I spend a lot of hours on some of the works that could be handled by AI. And if that work is getting handled, I could actually give my time on the real work. And here's how I think the role changes is from task execution to exception management. Routine tasks will be taken care by agentic workflows, and agents will step in only for nuance, judgment, or emotional complexity. And I also mentioned a term that I'm coining is AI supervisor. We should stop calling them agents now. I think in next 3 years, you'll be just calling them AI supervisors. And so one more thing is that from system, I think they'll be moving from system navigation to more human connection, because in the world of where AI is growing at a rapid pace, I think human touch will be a differentiation. Trust me on this. Where I think most of us use a lot of chat GPT, and I think that will actually itself define the human connection. So agents will finally get the bandwidth to do what humans are uniquely good at: trust building, reassurance, and creating emotional clarity. So agents won't disappear. They become the center of high value interactions. AI takes over the burden, and agent takes over the outcome. He'll be accountable for that. And that's what it will be there.
I really like the term AI supervisors, and I hope that is a mainstream that is going to come up for 2026. Anyway, I'll just take up the last one final question. So what are the biggest blind spot that you guys have observed in the CCaaS buyers, among the CCaaS buyers have today, when evaluating AI maturity? What the things that they don't look for, but that they actually should?
Anish, there's an interesting point here. Me and Amandeep gonna write a blog on the blind spots on CCaaS buyers.
That's lovely.
Yeah, and losing my memory, I just get to the point. Yeah. So answering the question, I have just noted down some areas. Let me go to my notes. Just a second, guys. Okay. So the number one, they don't evaluate the AI architecture. So buyer look at bots, co-pilots, routing, but ignore the underlying question. Is your platform really scalable? That's we have noticed, right? So without unified data layer, governance and model control, everything will collapse. And the second is they don't assess the quality of enterprise context. So about CRM, CCM, WM, policy, and knowledge, integration is just a guessing work. Vendor talk about accuracy, but buyer just should ask like how much context does the AI actually have? And even we have noticed that they don't ask for explainability and lineage. So regulated sectors need to know which model generated, right, and what output and why. So very few vendors can answer this today. And they don't even distinguish between feature level AI to a platform level AI. Some vendors stitch together AI from partners, others run AI natively across routing, forecasting, guidance, Q&A, scheduling. So those two categories behave completely different at scale. And also we have noticed that they don't evaluate the cost model of AI. And that's very important, right? Because we are investing a lot, we're investing as an infrastructure level, and the cost model is really important to work upon. And AI features may look easy to adopt, but in 12 months or more than that, some vendors will change heavily for users. So buyer gonna ask them, what will my AI look like in year 2, 3, and 4? So to summarize this answer, the biggest blind spot is this: buyer evaluate AI outputs, not the AI engine. And the engine is what decides your future.
I think.
Yeah, thanks. Anything to add on to that, Aman?
Yeah, just a point. I think that's great points, but just moving some point around after AI, not only for evaluating AI. I think if you see a blind spot, if you talk about this blind spot while evaluating CCaaS, you need to look at CCaaS from a different perspective now. You can if you look at CCaaS from a perspective of having a call center or just routing facilities, and I think that's what a biggest blind spot can be in 2026. I think you need to focus on how you can actually operationalize contact centers within your entire architecture, and then I think it will do wonders.
Thanks for adding that, Aman. Anyway, I'm sure the audience or our viewers are keenly looking forward to the blog that Saurabh mentioned that you guys are going to write about. And once again, thank you all who have joined us, and thanks for stretching those 5 minutes to attending our Q&A session. And I am the questions that is not answered yet, or we are constrained of time. We'll definitely revert back to those answers via mail. And to all those who have not been able to be a part of today's live session, don't worry. We're surely going to send out the recording to everybody so that you can, view across and then go back and then check out the QCaaS predictions again for 2026. Again, thank you so much, Amandeep and Saurabh, for sharing your insights and walking us through 2025 and what to look for in 2026. And thank you so much, guys. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mandeep, Manish.